Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Daily Download here on SheKnowsArsenal. My name is Jessica. You can follow me on Twitter at JustKnowTweets and at SheKnowsArsenal. Welcome. So on today's Daily Download, we're going to be going through mostly departures today. That's the majority of the news that's out there. Obviously, Adu's kind of spoken about wanting to do a little bit of a clean out, I guess, before anything else happens in terms of incoming. So over the last couple of weeks, we've been just kind of waiting to see these players go. So we're going to talk a lot about that. But there has been a report around Cody Gakpo, his availability, and Arsenal being the favorites to sign him this summer. Uh, Apparently, there's some. He's maybe unsettled at PSV, so we'll talk about that. We'll also kind of talk about Tielemans and a little bit about what we expect now that it looks like some departures have started to move, if we expect that to happen. At this point, if it doesn't happen after the departures, like, I don't know, it wouldn't be happening, right? So we'll talk about that. And yeah, just chit chat. Obviously, like, a lot of you guys know this, but if you don't, I'm not in Los Angeles right now. I'm in the UK, doing some work, some presenting work, as well as working with the Football Terrace and on my own channel and things like that. It's been really fun so far. Obviously, it's only been a weekend, but the weather's pretty decent. uh, Watched the women's Euros yesterday. That was a Euros final. That was outstanding. That was so much fun. Watching the England women win that tournament, and the level of improvement that has happened in the women's game in terms of visibility, sponsorship, opportunities for the players, and also just like the general play going up levels has been amazing to watch. So yeah, that was great. And the Football Terrace did a meetup a couple days ago on Saturday, and I met a lot of people that I've only known on the internet, which was really interesting. Met KJ for the first time, met Daniel, met Anita, met everybody from the Football Terrace, and so that was tons of fun. And now I'm back here to give you guys the juice, to give you guys the tea. So that's what we're going to talk about today. There's 124 of you guys already in here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and also let me know if this is a good time for you guys. It's 4 p.m. UK time, really early in the States, but being over here, it is a lot. It's different. I'm used to doing things early on in my day in terms of creating content with you guys. Now it's a little bit later, so I have my mornings kind of to myself. And, I don't want to go too early because I know that some people do watch me from the States, so let me know if this time is good for you guys. If you would like it to be a little bit later or not, let me know. But so far so good. There's quite a bit of you guys in here, so I'm thinking this might be at our right time, but let me know. Let's see who's in here today. Um, Lynn says, "Good afternoon, Jess. How's life in the UK?" It's great. I mean, ask me again, in a couple of weeks when it's rainy and cold and all that kind of stuff. But so far, so good. Um, I've traveled a lot, like, in my life, so this doesn't feel like, my first time being somewhere. Like, I've been to London a lot. I've been to the UK a lot. So spending a longer period of time here obviously is different than visiting, but yeah, so far so good. Let's see what you guys are saying. Magzino says Torreira is finally gone. We'll talk about that. Amira says, "Hey Jess, forgot you were in the UK for a second. Was wondering why you were going live earlier than usual." Exactly. It is a little bit weird, because I need to figure out what times actually work. But yeah, it's 4 p.m. now. Usually I'd be going live around 6:30. So yeah. Let's see what you guys are saying. Everybody's saying hello. You guys are amazing. O'Malley says 2 assists and a goal for Gakpo at the weekend. We are going to jump straight into that as well. And Frederick said this time is okay, honestly. So great. So it's a couple of things. So with Gakpo, we've spoken a lot about him from the beginning of the window. Like, at the beginning of the window, I don't even think the window was even open when we started to talk about him. And my feelings on him in terms of him being the right option as a winger option for Arsenal have changed throughout the window. It's went from I think he's the right option to we need something a little bit better. We need somebody that plays off of the right. We need somebody a little bit more experienced to maybe he would be okay. So we'll talk about that. But uh, Arsenal are said to be favorites to sign Cody Gakpo in this window. And I will pull up the tweet. Now it says Arsenal are favorites currently to sign Dutch winger Cody Gakpo from PSV. Leeds were also interested, but have now signed Sinistera and have plenty in Gakpo's position. And that's coming from Dean Jones. And so take that for what it's worth. And then Arsenal target Cody Gakpo is unsure about his future at PSV. They have put a 34 million pound price tag on him. So the price tag keeps fluctuating between somewhere around 30 million pounds to all the way up to 40, 45. So for me with Cody Gakpo, just because of his him not being somebody who's Premier League proven, we don't really actually know what level he's going to be at coming to Arsenal if he were to come. Anything above 30, 35 million to me would be way too much. But in terms of the player and what he would add to this team, I do think it still doesn't quite solve the competition slash another option on the right-hand side so that Bukayo Saka is not getting his legs ran off. We don't want a repeat of Bellerin with Bukayo. He needs to have not only competition to take him to the next level, but there needs to be somebody that Arteta trusts to play off of the right-hand side when he needs a rest. So I don't necessarily feel like Cody Gakpo fits that profile because he mostly plays off of the left. So there's that. He's different than like a Rafinha. He's different than your typical 1v1 hanging out by the touchline type of winger. He's more of an inside forward / striker. So when you see him play, he likes to cut in onto his right foot. He's very direct, but his first thought is to shoot. His first thought is to score goals. And so I think that that's a good thing, that coming off of that left-hand side, what he's thinking, and he's usually a lot more closer to the center. He doesn't really exist on the touchline the way a traditional winger would. And what you'll see him do a lot is kind of get into some space, take a couple of touches, and then whack it. And when you talk about ball striking, he has that in his locker. He's 23 years old, so he's not really a kid, but it's just about, does his talent transfer over to the Premier League? And we've seen over the years with different players, looking at somebody like Donny van der Beek, somebody who a lot of people, at 24 years old considered one of the top Dutch talents out there, goes to Manchester United and doesn't really hit the ground running. You have Hakim Ziyech, excellent player, 27, 28 years old, didn't really hit the ground running at Chelsea. But then you have other examples of players that have come from the Dutch league that have done just fine. So it's really about recruitment and what Arsenal really think, what they think his level is. I do find this to be a little bit of a report that I would take with a grain of salt, just because I'm not seeing it being underpinned by any sort of English media. I don't hear anybody else talking about it. They may be in the dark on this, but ultimately I do feel like I feel more comfortable believing reports when English, journalists are kind of also talking about it as well. But that doesn't mean it won't happen. With the way that Martinelli is playing at the moment, I would say that Cody Gakpo, in my mind, doesn't immediately displace him. And I think that kind of shows how good Martinelli has been in preseason. But we'd be kind of bringing in somebody else where I think their level would be quite similar to what we've already have in that position on the left wing. But the other, option that Cody Gakpo offers you is an option through the center. And he does strike me as somebody that later on in his career, he may be moved to the center as a striker. He can play center forward. He can play the 9. And so it does give you another option there. And not only just an option, but a different profile, because he is much taller than Nketiah and Gabriel Jesus. He's 6'2", so you would have more of a presence in the box if that's what you're looking for. So he doesn't necessarily solve the competition for Saka option, but what he does kind of solve in a way is the tall striker, and he can also play in multiple positions and give some really good competition for the players that are playing on left wing. So, it's a player that, he wouldn't be my number one choice, but I also would be excited if he did come to Arsenal. For me, it's just all about the price, you know, and what his level is, when he comes in, because looking at Vieira, he probably is somebody that we won't see right off the bat, but will kind of maybe grow into the season and hit some stride later on. Uh, Maybe Cody Gakpo is that as well. Vieira and Gakpo come in a little bit later on in the season and bring that depth and quality that we didn't really have last season. When players are coming back from the World Cup and things like that. Vieira, I'm not sure will be going to the World Cup. Maybe Cody Gakpo makes it. It really does depend. So yeah, I feel like this is something that we should just watch out for. But I would like to know what you guys think about this. Let's see what you guys are saying. Um, oh, let's see. Being Uki says a bit harsh on Van der Beek. He wasn't really given a fair chance. Don one says no real strong links to Gakpo. Well, here's the thing as well, you guys. Like my thing about links as well is that we consider certain journalists more reliable than others, but it all depends on where they get their information from. Uh, Even though Ornstein gets good information, it depends on where it comes from. And so for me, it's kind of like there's no strong links, but I did see Ornstein kind of talk about Gakpo at the beginning of the window, that he is somebody that we looked at. Also, James McNicholas at The Athletic spoke about Gakpo being a target. So no, they haven't said, yes, we're putting in a bid and it's imminent and all that kind of stuff. But I think at face value, what you can say is that there's probably some interest there. Whether or not that interest is firmed up with a bid, that's something that you have to see what happens. I think that also might have something to do with Nicolas Pepe, so we'll see. I see. Um, Lay down the law says Gakpo is also built like a Premier League player, but if you have to pick one for a player from PSV, it will be Sangare. I actually like Sangare a lot. I think, if I had to find somebody to underpin Thomas Partey, it might be him. I know that he has a release clause of like 37 million euros or something like that, but I think it would be well worth it. Nobody's going to be like Thomas Partey, but if you want somebody that can ball play a little bit and win challenges, interceptions, tackles, things like that, be a physical presence in your midfield, he could probably do that. He's not necessarily quick, but neither is Thomas Partey. I think there's kind of like a misconception around Thomas is slow. Like he's not quick, so he is somebody that I would look at, but it doesn't look like that's a position that we're going to address. But I do agree with you that Gakpo is somebody that I don't feel like is too light for the Premier League. So I think you have a really good point there. Newman says Arsenal don't need a winger overloaded in that position already. Well, I do think if you think about numbers wise, yeah, we do have a lot of players that can play in those wing positions. You have Marquinhos, Nelson, ESR, Martinelli, Bukayo Saka, Gabriel Jesus can also play there, and Kedia can play on the left wing. But, when are we talking about numbers or quality? And I think there's a difference between quantity and quality. And I'm not saying that, I think ESR, Martinelli, Gabriel Jesus, and Kedia and Saka are very good. But when you look at Nelson and Marquinhos, I don't necessarily feel like they're fighting for those positions. And so we're one light in those attacking areas. So for me, I do feel like it's something that we need. Could we survive without it? Probably. But do we want to survive or do we want to thrive, Newman? What do we want to do here? A lot of people saying congratulations to the England women's team. Yeah, that was amazing. I can't lie. I was very impressed by them for the entire tournament. Lynn said, if Gakpo came to Arsenal, do you think that Arteta would improve him? Yeah, I do. I think Gakpo has a lot of good raw attributes to him. Um, he's not the finished article. You can tell there's still some rough edges there, but Arteta, one thing that he's known for, that it's not just people just talking about it, but the players themselves have said that he's really improved them uh in those wing positions. So your Sterlings, your Sanes, Gabriel Jesus, he plays in those attacking positions as well. Saka has really improved under Mikel Arteta. I think Martinelli has also improved too. So, when you look at it, yeah, like he probably is somebody that would improve under Arteta. He is not the finished article. So, well, what I see from Gakpo is that he's not going to get as much space in the Premier League than he gets in the Dutch league. The Dutch league does have, there's a lot more space. He's the best player in the Eredivisie. He was named the best player in the Eredivisie. So, players back off of him. He has a lot of space to do what he wants to do. So some of those big touches that he takes, he would have to reel those in. And so it's just about tapering that and acclimating, to the Premier League and the speed and the lack of space. But in terms of like physical strength, speed, ball striking, his link up play is pretty good as well. His deliveries are really good. He is their like free kick / corner kick taker and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think Arteta would improve him, so yeah, like it's an interesting one. I did see that Lynn, I think, did ask somewhere in the comments that that who would be my number one option, if I had to choose. And, for me, I think I would probably lean more towards a Pedro Neto type player in that wing position, somebody that plays off of the right and plays off of the left footed, like Bukayo. When you look at Pedro Neto and his stats and everything on FB Ref, he really does align very well with Bukayo and Martinelli. He kind of is a combination of the two. So I think he would be a good fit for Arsenal. But he signed a new long-term deal. He might be looking at a huge move after this summer when he really uh kind of recovers from that big knee injury. So I don't really see that as an option. But you know, that's probably the person that I would go for. There is, some talk about Cody Gakpo's injury record. I don't think it's great. I'll look it up now. I do think he has some injury issues, but I just want to look it up really quick. So I'm not giving you guys bad information. Um, let's see. Let's see. Let's see. This says his market value is 27 million pounds, which sounds about right to me. Let's see. Stats, injury history. See what kind of injuries they are as well. All right. So in 2021, 2022, he had about 4 different absences that lasted different, amounts of time. In 2020, 2021, he had an ankle injury from January 10th, which is my birthday, to March 13th, which is 62 days. He missed 15 games with that ankle injury. And it looks like he may have re-aggravated it this past year and was out for 40 days and missed 7 games. So it kind of looks like he may have an ankle injury that kind of keeps re-aggravating. That's the only thing that I can really see here that really stands out, besides one injury in late February, early March that kept him out for 3 games. So there's some stuff here. There's definitely some stuff here. I don't see any muscular injuries or any knee injuries. Those are the big ones for me. But yeah, he has been out a little bit. So yeah, just wanted to look at that as well. Typically, Arsenal fan says, "Hi Jess, would you be disappointed if we got Gakpo?" No, I wouldn't. I'm pretty. Here's the thing: is like I do think we can improve upon what we have in those attacking positions, but what we have at base level is something that I do feel comfortable with us starting the season with. But it does feel like in order to sustain that for the entire season, we're probably one light. So with Gakpo, even though he doesn't really fit the the winger that I want, because I have preferences. Everybody has preferences, right? I prefer a right winger, left-footed, that can also play on the left. That's what I prefer. But Cody Gakpo does solve some issues that we have. He's a natural goal scorer. He can also play through the center. He scores a lot of goals. He is a good ball striker. So I would love that, especially with Balogun leaving. I know Balogun wasn't a big part of the team last season because he was on loan for the second half of the season. But, that's one less striking option that you have in your team. So if you have Gabriel Jesus and Kedia and Gakpo, as players that can play through the center, then you have some more options there. So he solves some issues, but doesn't solve others, and that's perfectly fine. I would be excited to see him. He's a player that I have been really excited about. In terms of like he looks really good and an exciting player. I'm not sure he hits the ground running. That's the only thing. Billy says Gakpo can play through the middle as well. Exactly. Let's see. Biuna says Gakpo better than Pepe. Let him come. Let's see. Newman says Arsenal have run out of dough. They need to sell to buy. So I think CM is most likely Tielemans. Eunice says Gakpo could be an outstanding potential, and it's also a risk. But for some reason, I have a good feeling about him, and that's really the thing. I think that's the perfect way to sum this up. Is that he has outstanding potential, but it's also a risk because we don't know how it's going to translate from that league. And I think that league from the Dutch Eredivisie straight to the Premier League, it's probably 50-50 based on what we've seen in the past. But what we've also seen is that with this new regime, not the Rauls and not that group, but this particular group, the last couple of transfer windows have really worked out for us when you really look at it. The only player that I could look at that was a complete fail was Willian. Everybody else has pretty much made sense. I know some people may consider maybe Sambi or Nuno a little bit off the mark, but ultimately, like, it made sense. The players were talented. Whether or not they were ready to go was more of the issue, so I do kind of trust this group to get it right, so we'll have to see. We'll have to see with that. And I know that, some people are still talking about Paqueta. For me, I've kind of put that on the shelf because like I do kind of put some kind of put some cold water on those links. They've went really cold, so we just have to kind of see what happens with that. But, early on in during that, when that was kind of hot for a minute and those links were coming out, it was always caveated by Arsenal want to get buy-in from Paqueta first. We wanted to put in a bid. We were really interested in the player. We really liked him. Want to get buy-in. Then the next thing that we see from L'Équipe after the links have gone cold is that Paqueta would rather go to Spurs or Manchester City. Then we see that if Manchester City sell Bernardo Silva to Barcelona, which looks like a deal that might be on, that they would look at Lucas Paqueta. So it could just be a matter of we sounded him out. We were really interested. We wanted to put in a bid, but we couldn't get buy-in because there was other teams that maybe he's more interested in that he wants to wait for. And we know that Arsenal want players that say, yeah, I want to come to you, with no hesitation whatsoever. So I'm kind of projecting here and just looking at the timeline and how it kind of went from Arsenal interested in putting in a bid, want to get buy-in, goes cold, then all of a sudden Spurs, Manchester City are his preferred options. Manchester City might want to bring him in case Bernardo Silva leave. That's kind of the gist I'm getting. And so the reality is, you guys, is if he's not bought in by the project, I don't want him here anyway. I really rate Lucas Paqueta, but also you can't really hate on somebody that's looking at other teams that are in Champions League that are winning things in terms of Manchester City as maybe a better option. So if he wants to go there, fair enough. There's nothing really there for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just is what it is. Olivier says Paqueta is very good, but I question character. He wants to be like Neymar. Fair enough. Troy says, I've always said that Gakpo is the one. Get him and Tielemans. Aya says Olise is much better than Gakpo. Arsenalist Football says, big up, Jess. Always looking to catch you live. Well, I'm glad you guys are here. There's 527 of you guys in here, which is amazing. like the video, subscribe to the channel. Um, and let's move forward to Torreira. So news just kind of broke within the last hour that he's really close to moving to Galatasaray. So obviously, like my original post that I made this maybe 3 hours ago, the tweet for it. So it originally said Sampdoria was who was interested in him. But then news broke just like an hour ago around, Galatasaray being really close to signing him. So this is coming from, and I don't know any of these people, y'all. So I'm not going to vouch for them. I'm just going to give you guys what I see. Um, AS Marca. This is a Turkish publication. Has said that Lucas Torreira will become a new Galatasaray player for a deal worth 7 million. I see people keep putting 7 million pounds. I believe it's 7 million euros. And so it's about 5 million pounds. That's what I'm getting from this. So I think it's a very small fee. That's what I'm gonna say. So essentially, let's pull it up. Yeah, Lucas Torreira will become a new Galatasaray player. Deal has been agreed with Arsenal for 5.5 million euros plus 1.5 million euros in bonuses. This is from Alicio Lento. Again, I don't know him very well, but he's, I think, a Uruguayan journalist. Says that Lucas Torreira is very close to Galatasaray. Open negotiations with Arsenal for the player. Ready a 3-year deal with an option for another. He said hot phones on London is, I don't know what he's trying to say. Hot phones, whatever, hot phones, whatever hot phones means. But yeah, that news is kind of broken. And then this is coming from Nicolas Shira. He says that Galatasaray are really interested in signing Lucas Torreira. Galatasaray have opened talks with Arsenal to try to reach an agreement last Friday. Positive talks with the agent Pablo Bentancur for a contract until 2026. Sampdoria and Valencia are also interested in transfers. So I think the good thing about this is that it looks like it could potentially be a permanent deal, which we want that. I saw some kind of a loan, a loan doesn't work for us right now because he only has 1 year left on his deal. And I have a hard time seeing him sign a new deal in order to maintain his value so we can sell him later. I think at this point we need a clean break between Lucas Torreira and Arsenal. So, this has kind of come out of nowhere. And I really hope that is true because I'll tell you what, you guys, Lucas Torreira has been one of the hardest players to shift. And that's wild as well, just because I think he's actually a really good player. I think he's a little eager. He comes off a little bit eager and a little bit immature in some ways. I think he's burnt his own deals sometimes by talking too much, but in terms of what he gives on the pitch, he's one of those types of players, typical South American player, heart on the sleeve, tons of passion, plays for the badge, gives 110%. And at the time that we bought him, he had just come off of the back of a really good performance, I think, in the World Cup for Uruguay. So I was really excited about the player. It's just unfortunate it hasn't really worked out. If you guys have noticed, like a lot of the players from that era, the Emery era slash Mislintat era have not worked out, and we've moved them on. There was no philosophy behind it. It was just a little bit of like, bring in players that are young or whatever, but they don't really fit a certain philosophy because we didn't have one under Emery. And so it just hasn't worked out. And so for Lucas Torreira, I think for him, like, especially because we're right on the eve of another World Cup, is he needs to be playing because I feel like he didn't make the last round of call-ups either. So for him, it's important to get playing time. For Arsenal, it's important to get him off the books. I think he's on 75K per week. For a player that doesn't play for us, that's a lot of money. So getting him off the books will be important. And I know the fee is not great because I think we spent about 25 million for him. For a player that's only like 26 years old, that's a terrible fee. 5 million pounds or whatever it is. That's terrible. But that's kind of just where we're at because we can't shift him. So I'm waiting for some, other journalists maybe to come out and really kind of put the stamp of, validity on it, to say that this is actually happening and it's not just paper talk. But there's enough reports out there to make me think that at least Galatasaray have concrete interest in him, and talks are there. And let's just hope it doesn't break down last minute. Um, Mahmoud says, I'm from Turkey. Galatasaray better than all Turkish football clubs. Fair enough. Fair enough. Crispy Rice says, people, it's his salary that needs to be removed. Tell me this, I'll tell you this, says Torreira, Guendouzi, Leno, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, Bellerin, from what value we could have got to what we will get. Yeah, I mean, I do think that, like, we should have gotten more for all of these players. Let's keep it 100. Like, as much as I get that it's difficult to shift these players now, there have been opportunities in the past to get more. And the names that really stand out to me are Ainsley Maitland-Niles and Hector Bellerin. We've spoken about this. Barcelona wanted to offer us like 50 million for Bellerin years ago. Then they came back and wanted to offer 25, and we still said no because they didn't reach his value. Whatever. Ainsley Maitland-Niles, he could have went to Wolves for 15 million, and that's just would be so much better than what we're getting now for them. So right now we're probably going to have to cancel Bellerin's contract, and nobody wants Ainsley Maitland-Niles. So for Arsenal in the future with Edu, like, it just has to be sell before it's obvious. Like, at this point, they're desperate to leave. We're desperate to sell. And so we have absolutely no leverage in any of these negotiations. And it doesn't help that I think perception really does come into it. Players that Arsenal are selling don't have a good perception around them. Now, I think this new group that's come in, like Balogun and Kedia, uh, Nuno, players like that. I think if we were to come to a place, in the next couple of years where we felt like we want to sell them, I don't think it would be as difficult. But these players have been very hard to shift. So yeah, we're not going to get much for them, and it's unfortunate, but it's the reality, right? HB says, love a shithousery from Arsenal. Turn down 7 million from Fiorentina, but sell for 7 million euros to Galatasaray. O'Malley says, hard to sell a player for value with 1 year left on his deal, and he is screaming he wants to leave. Exactly. There's no leverage there. I just got like the worst visual of Lucas Torreira, like a baby, like on the ground, just like, I want to go. Like, oh gosh, I can't stand him. D Cunningham says, I wish Torreira well, but it is time. Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is. Crispy Rice, mistakes of the past. D Cunningham says, let's be real. The strategy plan B of Emery should have come with tighter spending than what we did do. We cannot change that now. We can only move on with a better strategy. Yeah, I mean, we just have to move forward. But I think this is the last summer of, we can't sell players. This is the last summer for that. I could completely understand from what I'm looking at here, the players that they are, the 1 year left on their contract, the lack of interest. I can see that. Next summer, where we're probably going to have some players that maybe we were thinking about moving on. They have good value. They're on long-term contracts. I would expect to get something from them if we decide to sell. So that's it. That's really where we're at with it, but, with Torreira, just want him to go, tired of him whining all day long, so let's see. Let's hope that comes to a close very, very soon. It may be the signing or the exit that we need in order for Tielemans to come in. So that's what I'm kind of looking at for that. 614 of you guys in here. Let me check the likes. Let me see. You guys, 156 likes. 156. Are you guys not liking the show? If you guys are liking the show, hit the like button right now. Like, it takes 5 seconds, not even 5 seconds, a second. Do that for me, you guys. I would really appreciate it. So moving forward, burn Leno. Obviously, a lot of people spoke about this yesterday because that's really when the news kind of broke. But, I'll just go ahead and, say my little piece on it. Fulham have reached a agreement with Arsenal to sign Burn Leno. Fee is in the region of £8 million. Final details being sorted between the clubs, personal terms in place. The 30-year-old goalkeeper expected to undergo a medical next week before completing his move. That was from David Ornstein. So that deal is pretty much done. With Leno, keep it short and sweet. He was a good servant to the club, been here for 4 years or so. In one of our darkest periods, always kind of showed up as one of the best players in the team. has played behind some of the worst Arsenal backlines I've ever seen and still came out looking like a really good player, which I think speaks to his quality. I do think we needed a new goalkeeper. I do think we needed to move on. I also agreed with him being, the number 1 over Martinez with that entire situation. I didn't think any I thought Leno deserved to be number 1 still, but, especially if Martinez didn't wanna fight for his spot. But, Leno probably wanted to stay in London. I know some people were like, "We should just hold out and give him to Leicester." I just never really saw that as being a realistic, scenario. He had already kinda all the legwork had kinda went into him going to Fulham, so I think the least that we can do for him is let him go to the club that he really wants to go to, and Fulham seems to be the one. I know there's some, criticism about Leno going to Fulham, that he's above that move, but if his family is settled in London and he's gonna be a number 1 undisputed, and that'll allow him to get into the German national team, then fair enough, and all I could do is wish him the best, but that happened yesterday as well as Balogun. His medical will be soon as well. He will be moving to Reims. Um, I don't know what it's called, y'all, but he'll be moving there, um, for a loan, no options or obligations there, and he will soon be on his way to France to undergo his medical. So yeah, he'll be replacing the player that went to PSG. I am. Is his name Hugo? What is his name? Let me look him up. Yeah, he's going there to replace Hugo Ekitike. I had never known this player at all before this window, and Newcastle were interested in him. He ended up going to PSG, but that's who Balogun is going to replace. So I would imagine he would get quite a bit of playing time. I know there's this kind of like want to see our players play in the Premier League or play in England, but I think as long as he's getting good minutes, in a serious league, then, it's good. I think Balogun is still a part of the long-term plans. I still rate him very highly. It's just, I think the moment for me that was really like, you have moments in life where you're like, you really don't know anything. Like in my mind, I'm thinking, you really didn't think about that. And it was when we played against Sunderland and Eddie Nketiah looked like a first team player. He scored 3 goals and Balogun really struggled, and, you know, Balogun is just a couple years behind being the type of player that we need in order, to really, stamp his impact on this club and on this team. So, yeah, I think another loan is really good for him, see where he's at. He only got a 6-month loan, so getting a full season will be good for him, but I still have high hopes for Balogun, and so, yeah, I'm happy about this loan. I really am. Let's see. Um, HB says not moaning, stating the facts that Arsenal were the most affected team due to refereeing decisions last season. We just have to put clear cut goals past Palace. Oh, okay. So you guys are talking about yeah. Yeah. So Hugo Akitake, whatever his name is, that's who he'll be replacing. So I'm excited for Balogun, and I'll be watching some of those games to see how he does. Bellerin wants his contract canceled. Dun dun dun. So shocked. It's not really shocking. I don't think it's shocking to any of us. Yeah, it's not really shocking to any of us because I mean, let's keep it real. Like that's the only way we're going to be able to get rid of him. He like Torreira has done something. They've done something very similar where they've kind of spoken out loud about wanting to be at one club. Other clubs have been interested. They haven't really, you know, um entertained any of those options. And so I know his agent has come out and said, like, no, we don't want to cancel the contract. We want, you know, uh, Arsenal to get what they deserve from this transfer. Everything that he's done up until this point has been trying to get, his contract canceled. So I think that's what it's going to take to get Bellerin off the books. Ultimately, his wages are the most important thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if we just, um, he paid off the rest of his contract and we just let him go. But that's pretty much what's going on with Bellerin. Um, and yeah, I just feel like he's somebody that just needs to go. It just is what it is, isn't it? Oh my gosh, I hope my computer doesn't die. I'm like looking for somewhere for me to plug. Well, see, this is how unprofessional I am, you guys. Why is my computer not plugged in? Why is it not plugged in? If this thing dies, I'm gonna be so upset. Literally. So yeah, but that's what's going on with Bellerin. Now I have to like breeze through this really quick. And then Tielemans. Let's talk about Tielemans really quickly. Um, with Tielemans, like at this point, if Torreira goes, I would expect us to make a move. If we don't, then I'm worried. If it takes, Torreira and AZ Maitland-Niles to go in order for him to come in, then I'm starting to think that we're not really going to go in for him. He was left out of the starting lineup for Leicester's most recent preseason match, so you could take that as something. It could be them just kind of he went from being the captain to not starting. So some people are reading into that, but this is the player that I do think we need to bring in. Like everybody has kind of said, center midfield is really, really important. We have to get that right. And so I do think that Xhaka has really stepped up his level. So anybody who comes in is going to have to be top, in order to displace him, I think. And, you have Thomas Partey potentially like injuries, not being available, whatever. And then you have Vieira, we don't really know about him, and El Neni is not really good enough, and Sambi's playing the 8 now, so we need somebody else in that mix, and so I would imagine that after Torreira goes, Tielemans might be the one to come in, but, most Leicester, journalists and, people close to the club have kinda just said all the same thing. The Tielemans transfer saga has shown no signs of reaching a conclusion. He has so far been playing with the latecomers, and not with many of the players expected to form Rodgers' first team this season. But if he doesn't leave, he is expected to be remain a key player, and that's coming from Jordan Blackwell. So yeah, he's not really playing with the main group, but if he stays, they'll obviously use him. And so yeah, I think that there's every opportunity for Arsenal to come in and make this deal happen. But at the same time, like we are getting rid of players, so I would imagine like, you know, it would happen quite quickly. Um, let's see. Lynn says, according to the news today, that Arsenal have agreed terms with Leicester, and I think this has happened because Leicester don't want to sell Madison or Fofana. I haven't seen those reports, but when it happens, we'll know. O'Malley says, only reason I like Tielemans is he can play as an 8 and possibly cover for Partey at a higher level than El Neni. D. Cunningham says, LCFC have a full wage bill. They have to sell someone to buy anyone. And I do think, honestly, Madison will sign a new deal. Fofana will go, and maybe Tielemans will go as well. Madison to Newcastle, even though I know that Newcastle are putting in bids, I have this weird feeling that it might be in order to get a new deal. And in order for Madison to get more money, they need maybe Tielemans to go. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I think this is something I want to see happen as quickly as possible. I know it won't be before the end of the season or before the beginning of the season, but you'd still want him to get, especially I would like him to come in during this early period because that's going to be the easiest period of the season, and then it gets difficult from then on. Yeah. So, you guys, we're going to go ahead and maybe stop it there. I didn't have much more besides like Pepe maybe to stay. We don't know much on Pepe right now. There's rumors that he may stay because he doesn't like any of the options that he's being offered right now. Leeds and Newcastle are interested in him. I would imagine that's if Jack Harrison goes to Leeds or stays at Leeds, then Newcastle may go for Pepe. If Jack Harrison leaves and goes to Newcastle, then Leeds will probably go after Pepe. So it's a matter of what happens with those two clubs, and maybe they'll put in a bid. But Mark Irwin, who put out some speculative article this morning, said that Nicolas Pepe will also be shifted to the departure lounge if Arteta can achieve his ambition of signing another winger after missing out on Rafinha. So we have to wait and see what happens with Pepe. And, I think Pepe will go, but maybe he will stay. Maybe if he doesn't like any of the options that have been presented to him, he will stay. Or what I think is more likely is that Arsenal will have to pay for him to go. I think that's pretty much where we're at with that as well. So yep. You guys, this has been so much fun. I know this is a little bit of a shorter one, but of course, like we're going to do predictions soon. I'm just trying to get a panel together, so that'll be fun. And obviously, keeping you guys updated with the most recent Arsenal news and transfer news. This has been the daily download. There's 700 of you guys in here. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, get in the comment section after and let me know what you guys think about this. Who would you like to see come in? Who are you desperate to see out? How do you guys think that the rest of the window is going to go? And yeah, really enjoyed this. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, y'all.